How could a single sentence, spoken during an unplanned, late-night Weverse livestream, end up shaking an entire fandom to its core? How could Kim Taehyung's sudden appearance, hair messy and voice trembling, ignite instant panic in Jungkook, who had barely stepped off a plane from Paris just hours earlier? The idea sounds exaggerated, almost too heavy, too loaded with tension. And yet, that was exactly the storm that swept across ARMY the moment Taehyung's voice broke on screen. Meanwhile, Jungkook's reaction, hidden behind the scenes, spread across social media with lightning speed, sending fans scrambling to understand what had just unfolded. Why did he confess that? Why at that moment? And why did Jungkook look like he just heard something he wasn't emotionally ready to handle? The night began with absolute unpredictability. No teaser. No schedule. No rumor. Taehyung simply appeared on Weverse Live, his expression soft but weighted by something he hadn't yet said. It wasn't the bubbly, bright greeting fans were used to. Instead, it was a tiny exhale, fragile, hesitant, like he'd spent hours deciding whether he should click go live. Instantly, ARMY sensed the shift. Something felt off. Something was coming. At the same time, Jungkook, fresh from a high-profile Paris appearance, had just landed back in Korea. Cameras had followed him in France non-stop, catching his glow, his confidence, and that mysterious air he sometimes carried when deep in thought. But only minutes after Taehyung began speaking, multiple staff members reportedly noticed Jungkook looking at his phone repeatedly, his expression changing too quickly to hide. Curiosity. Confusion. Tension. And finally, what many described as panic. Airport staff would later claim Jungkook suddenly excused himself after receiving a particular notification and slipped out of sight through a security-restricted hallway. That notification, according to circulating whispers, was simply, Taehyung is live. But why would that trigger such urgency? Why would a common live stream, something BTS members have done hundreds of times, set off an emotional chain reaction? To understand, we return to the moment Taehyung's live stream began unraveling. His tone was different, strangely intimate, almost academic, like he had prepared a speech but still couldn't mask the emotion beneath it. He mentioned Paris in a way that wasn't casual at all, carrying a subtle tension that made fans sit forward. He said he had seen something online. Something he had overlooked before. Something that suddenly weighed on him. And then, he paused. A silence so loaded it practically shook the fandom. What had he seen? What realization struck him? His expression shifted, barely, but enough to send electricity through every viewer. He bit his lip, looked away, and then finally revealed the words that exploded across the internet within seconds. Not dramatic, not angry, but painfully soft. Vulnerable. He hinted at misunderstandings. At unspoken feelings. At something connected directly to Jungkook's Paris trip. Fans immediately began connecting clues. Taehyung had seen the same Paris footage everyone else did. Jungkook, glowing under flashlights yet distant in certain clips. Jungkook, smiling for cameras but carrying a quiet heaviness in candid moments. And whatever Taehyung saw, he admitted it affected him far more than expected. His eyes glistened as he spoke, not dramatic tears, but enough to hint at bottled emotion. He confessed he had been planning to speak up long before. He confessed certain things had hurt him more than he let on. Each sentence hit like thunder. Fans demanded answers. What had he meant? What moment from Paris struck him so deeply? And why did Jungkook react the way he did? According to staff accounts, Jungkook tried calling someone several times after hearing fragments of Taehyung's livestream. His manager asked if he wanted to go home, but Jungkook's reply shocked even those near him, "I need to handle something." He looked shaken, breath uneven. What was he rushing toward? What conversation was he afraid was coming? Because in Jungkook's mind, Taehyung wasn't just talking. He was confessing, publicly. Revealing emotions Jungkook never expected him to voice. And at the worst possible time, right when Jungkook returned exhausted from a demanding overseas schedule. Back on Weverse, Taehyung continued, more open than ever. He spoke about how silence between two people can become louder than words. He admitted he had been holding on to certain thoughts for a long time. That approaching someone who matters deeply is sometimes the hardest thing to do. Then, with trembling breath, he finally said Jungkook's name directly. The fandom collectively lost its mind. Taehyung didn't criticize or accuse Jungkook. Instead, he expressed something even more startling, soft worry laced with tenderness. He mentioned noticing how hard Jungkook had been working. How he had been watching from afar. How the Paris trip only confirmed things he'd quietly worried about. Then came the line that sliced through every viewer. I should have said this earlier. But I didn't know how. By this point, Jungkook was no longer at the airport. Some witnesses saw him whisper, "I need to get home," but fans suspect he didn't go straight there. Instead, they believe he rushed somewhere else, perhaps to confront Taehyung, perhaps to steady himself emotionally. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear, he was shaken. Taehyung kept speaking, peeling back layers of their unspoken emotional distance. He admitted he had misunderstood something recently. That he assumed Jungkook felt a certain way and later realized he might have been wrong. That he regretted letting small miscommunications grow bigger than intended. Then came the detail that sent social media into detective mode. Taehyung confessed that a specific moment from Jungkook's Paris trip hurt more than he expected, but he didn't specify which moment. Army immediately began analyzing every Paris clip frame by frame. But after all the dramatic build-up, emotional intensity, and viral reactions, one thing needs to be stated clearly and responsibly. None of this actually happened. There was no panic from Jungkook. No emotional confession from Taehyung. No behind-the-scenes chaos. No staff testimonies. No hidden confrontation. The entire scenario above is purely fictional, crafted for storytelling, emotion, and dramatic tension. It does not reflect real events involving BTS members. And this is where things get complicated in digital fandom spaces. Stories like this, packed with tension, questions, timelines, and emotional moments, can blur the line between fiction and reality. Dramatic narratives feel plausible when they involve people fans deeply care about. Without clear context, imagination can morph into mistaken belief. That is why defining this narrative as fiction is essential. In real life, Taehyung and Jungkook maintain a stable, mature, deeply respectful friendship. They do not communicate through public confessions or emotional surprises. They handle their private conversations privately. This fictional narrative simply demonstrates how powerful storytelling can be, and how easily dramatic scenarios can go viral if shared without context. Fiction can explore emotional what-ifs, but truth must remain clear. And the truth is simple. None of these events occurred.